Is the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians the revival of an ancient conflict recorded in the Bible?
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. What if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel?
The Dragon's Prophecy. Watch it now or buy the DVD at thedragonsprophecyfilm.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill. I'm so delighted to be hosting Dinesh's podcast for the rest of this week. I am an author. I've written 2 books, The Choice, The Abortion Divide in America, and Why God, an intelligent discussion on the relevance of faith, where I debunk pro-choice arguments, make pro-life arguments. Then I debunk the arguments of atheists, make Christian arguments. Today, we have a lot to talk about. We're actually going to talk all about the successes of the Trump administration and everything that he has been getting done this year. I mean, we honestly can talk about everything because there's so much. So we're going to really just touch on a few things. And then we are going to speak with Congressman Troy Nehls from Texas's 22nd Congressional District. We will talk to him about his recent announcement and what he has been working on in Congress. And we will hear some news from him as well. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
It's hard to believe it's been over a year since the election of 2024, and less than a year since Donald J. Trump officially re-entered the White House. There have been so many changes, and they've happened so quickly that it's easy to lose track of all of the accomplishments. So much has changed that even the familiar scene of the White House interior is no longer the same as it once was. It has been hard to keep up. Even the press seems caught off guard more often than not on what to report. In aeronautics, there's the speed of sound. In physics, there's the speed of light. And now in politics, the new benchmark is the speed of Trump. Right off the bat, it was clear the second Trump administration would reprise the promises made, promises kept ethos we came to know and love from the first administration. Only this time, it has been ratcheted up by a factor of 10. Before the sun even set on Inauguration Day, the pardons had flown out across the country. January 6ers were walking through prison gates, leaving behind the world of concrete walls. We have seen that there were many rumors that day that Trump was only going to pardon a handful of the Democrats' political prisoners. People said that there would be too much political backlash for any one man to bear on his first day or half day back in office. Pundits declared that his support would flatline if he behaved in such a brazenly political manner and set loose what many on the left still claim were his insurrection attack dogs. They made it sound as if granting just a few prudent pardons would be the most he could do, if President Trump expected to put his best foot forward and protect his legacy. But Trump knew that pardoning them was the right thing to do. He ignored all of this, maybe perhaps well-intentioned advice. He threw caution to the wind, secured the release of hundreds of weary, oppressed, and downtrodden January 6 prisoners. Thanks to that bold move, thousands were freed from the threat of predatory court proceedings and a lifetime of having the feds constantly monitoring their every action. President Trump kept his promise. So many of those prisoners, for the first time in years, are now able to enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas at home with their families. We even see that that was the case for pro-life activists, many others who put their life on the line, simply being peaceful, simply praying, believing in pro-life, beautiful things. They were also set free. Think about what a multi-year absence does to families. Think about how harsh that was for them, especially in the Biden era of extreme political rhetoric, when the relatives of these prisoners were made to feel like accomplices to the murder of democracy. Many of the spouses, siblings, parents, and children not only had to live without their loved ones, but also had to endure taunts, jeers, death threats, being shunned, Now those wounds are healing, and it's all because one man had the moral courage to do what was right and the heart to know it had to be done the right way. He will always have the undying gratitude of all of the people, the families who were influenced by that. And that was just Trump's first day. And there's many more to cover there. Immediately afterward, he leapt to the task of signing executive orders. And this flurry of executive orders beautifully restored many aspects of America. By the end of February, Trump had signed at least 5 massively important executive orders meant to demolish the scourge of DEI and woke culture in the workplace and academia. This began with the firing of 2 Democratic commissioners in the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The incoming appointee, Andrea Lucas, vowed to use the EEOC to prioritize rooting out unlawful DEI-motivated race and sex discrimination, protecting American workers from anti-American national origin discrimination, defending the biological and binary reality of sex and related rights, including women's rights to single-sex spaces at work, protecting workers from religious bias and harassment, including anti-Semitism, and remedying other areas of recent under-enforcement. The other anti-DEI executive orders included halting Lyndon Johnson's executive order 11246, which forced government contracting to operate under an affirmative action regime. This went along with the executive order 14151, which ended radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing, shutting down all DEI-related efforts throughout the government. Then came Executive Order 14168, which defined sex as someone's biological gender, thereby throwing out the insane concept of gender identity. Executive Order 14190 bans radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, while Executive Order 14201, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, blocked men from playing on women's teams as it establishes a federal policy that educational institutions allowing men to compete in female sports or use female locker rooms are in violation of Title IX. His Executive Order 14173 blocked any company hoping to gain a federal contract from operating anything resembling a DEI program. This action set heads spinning in the early days of his administration as corporations, contractors were forced to go full reverse on DEI measures if they wanted to retain their lucrative government contracts. Quite brilliant. It was the promise of money from big Wall Street private equity funds that steered those corporations into increasingly insane DEI programs over the course of years. Like Hercules diverting the Alpheus and Peneus rivers to clean the Augean stables, Trump turned that very dynamic to the people's advantage by using the promise of money to force corporations to clean house. By February 20th, the end of his first month back in office, President Trump had signed 68 executive orders in total. These ran the gamut of returning power to the people, limiting government overreach, supercharging the economy. That's so many, we don't even have time to go over them all here. There were executive orders that ended all COVID vaccine mandates in schools, established the Maha Commission, ended paper straws, stopped foreign corruption, protected the Second Amendment, stopped opioids from China, established a sovereign wealth fund, improved military readiness and fitness standards, restored merit-based opportunity, secured the borders, realigned the nation's refugee program, and certainly, who can forget the establishment of DOGE and the absolute insanity such a common sense course of action inspired among Democrats? The department's official site reports a total of $214 billion saved thus far, which amounts to a $1,300 in savings per taxpayer. In terms of regulations, DOGE has saved the American taxpayer another $30 billion and reduced our regulatory burden to the tune of almost 2 million words that have been stripped from the code of federal regulations. Since the dawn of our republic, it's arguable that no other president has done more to tame the government behemoth. Looking at other ways in which the administration has been helping to save Americans, we can't forget the once maligned and now praised tariffs and trade deals. These deals haven't only been good for our pocketbook. By ensuring that manufacturing is restored within our own country, they've brought enough money into the country to justify the idea of a tariff dividend check of about $2,000 per person. It's important to appreciate what the Trump administration is doing here. He's realigning the structure of the American economic engine in order to maximize the freedom and autonomy of her citizens while at the same time cutting our dependence on cheap imported or offshored foreign labor. For the most part, he's achieving this goal despite the active resistance being put up, not only by Democrats and their crony judges, but also by corporations themselves, with President Trump having to drag them kicking and screaming into the American golden age. Perhaps nothing is more emblematic of that struggle than Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who has been holding back on lowering interest rates for fear of a jump in inflation that has yet to manifest. The man is a walking, talking impediment to economic growth. We have seen that in July, Kiplinger reported that the Trump economy was firing on all cylinders by 6 months. The article noted that, quote, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ composite are trading near all-time highs, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is knocking on a new peak of its own. The S&P 500 has returned 5.7% since January 17th, the NASDAQ 6.8%, and the Dow 2.9%. And perhaps only cryptocurrency and Bitcoin capture the absolutely risk-on nature of the stock market so far into 47's tenure. Crypto is now a $4 trillion market, and Bitcoin recently crossed 120,000 for the first time. This was at that time. This economic realignment touches all aspects of American life. Up to now, our nation was being carved up by predatory and even hostile international interests, turning the heartland into the world's largest banana republic. A big piece of that realignment has been closing down our porous southern border. Despite the endless hand-wringing on the left, fixing the border problem was not that complicated. As Trump himself noted, all we needed was a new president.
There's a powerful new film coming from Angel Studios on the Wonder Project. It's called Young Washington. It tells the untold story of how George Washington's character was forged long before independence when he was just 20, facing failure, loss, and near death. Directed by John Irwin, who made Jesus Revolution, American Underdog, and starring Andy Serkis, Ben Kingsley, and Kelsey Grammer, it's a sweeping, high-quality production that reminds us what true leadership, virtue, and providence look like. This isn't revisionist history. It's the real story told with courage, truth, and respect for the values that shaped America. Young Washington releases Independence Day 2026 on the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding. Become an early supporter by joining the Angel Guild today. Premium members get 2 free opening day tickets and help bring this inspiring story to theaters across America. Go to angel.com/Dinesh. Help make Young Washington the #1 movie this Independence Day. Again, it's angel.com/Dinesh. Do you hate the idea of a reverse mortgage? Does it kind of weird you out? Well, guess what? Why do you think that these mortgages have a 95% satisfaction rate for the people that actually have them? Movement Mortgage has arranged for my listeners exclusively to get a free customized retirement mortgage options plan, personalized to your financial goals and situation. It's designed to show you how your home can help fund your retirement without selling, without giving up ownership. And as a bonus, you'll also get a complimentary copy of Home Equity and Reverse Mortgages, the Cinderella of the Baby Boomer Retirement, so you can understand the facts before making any big decisions. Call 580-REVERSE, or you can visit movement.com/Dinesh to get your free customized plan today, because when it comes to retirement, what you don't know can hurt you. Go to movement.com/Dinesh.
I am delighted to welcome to the podcast one of our dearest friends, Congressman Troy Nehls. He represents Texas's 22nd Congressional District. Troy, thanks so much for joining us.
Danielle, it's good to be with you. I got to tell you, we got to say it right now. Brandon doing a fabulous job up here. I mean, you see him, he's talking. Everybody wants him on TV. I said, Brandon, if you put some put some readers on. I said, if you put these on like Brandon Gill, I said, he looks like Superman. I said, the only thing he doesn't have is a cape, and he needs a cape because Brandon Gill is doing a hell of a job up here. You got to be proud of what he's doing.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so thankful to you. And for anyone who's not watching who doesn't know this, Troy was Brandon's first endorsement when Brandon wanted to run for Congress. And we were like, Troy, would you endorse Brandon? You would be his first endorsement. And Troy was so kind. And so, you know, we were huge fans of Troy before that. So not because of that, but Troy has been doing such an amazing job. He's been longtime friends with Debbie, my stepmom, of course. And of course, you know, gets to work with Brandon in Judiciary Committee. They've been doing a lot of stuff in Congress. And we were just so sad to see that you released your statement saying that you're not going to run again for re-election, but you've been so incredible so far. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what went into your decision?
Yes, I'll be finishing my third term here, so I'll be in my 6th year in the new year, and that's 3 terms. And I have a beautiful, beautiful bride. My wife, Jill, retired from public education. She was a principal for the last 15 years, but 30 years in public education. So she's retired. She's been retired for 6 months. And we have 3 girls. There's still one at home, and she's 13 years old. And I tell you, we had this government shutdown, and it was painful. The Chuck Schumer shutdown, and in the end, he got nothing. I don't know why in the hell he put the people through the pain. He ended up getting nothing out of this, and the American people suffered. But I was home for, those days doing district work, but it was just kind of nice being back at home with my family. And then I thought about it over Thanksgiving, and I said, I just think it's time for me to just, step back and give somebody else an opportunity to run. And I brought it up to my twin brother. Now, when I made this decision, that my twin brother lives right next to me. I mean, he lives right next to me. So I walked out the door. I said, Trevor, his name is Trevor. He's identical twin. I said, Trevor, I talked to Jill, the girls. I said, I decided, and I have peace in my heart with this. I said, I'm not going to run again. I said, but maybe you should do it. I mean, you're my identical twin. You're a good looking son of a gun. You're smart. And I think you understand the process up here because you have been, he's come to visit me several times. So Trevor decided, he said, yes, I think I'm going to do this. He talked to Carrie, his wife, and said, I'm in. So now we're all behind my twin brother. I told President Trump before I made my decision that my brother's going to do this. I feel pretty confident about that coming up. And so here we are. But I still have a year to go. I mean, we have a year and we have to make sure, Danielle, that, and Brandon will tell you, we got to keep the House. Yes. We lose the majority here, it's going to get pretty stupid. Things are stupid up here now, but it gets really, really stupid because it'll just be investigations and impeachment. And that's all the Democrats will do with Hakeem Jeffries and some of the other whack jobs.
Right. Yeah. In a way, I mean, people love to beat up on Congress saying, oh, you need to do more of this, do more of that. We try with our small majority. But if we lose the House, it's going to be even worse because they'll just try to derail President Trump. And if we keep the House, President Trump will not have to deal with, impeachments and all of that nastiness. We can focus on just the winning streak that we've had so far. But absolutely so excited about your twin brother. Fun fact is I met him at the Texas Black Tie and Boots Ball in DC in January when Trump was getting inaugurated. I saw him and I was like, Troy, and I want to get a picture with him. And then he's like, I'm Trevor. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. You're identical twins, literally. So that's very exciting. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your recent act that you passed, the Medal of Honor Act, just signed by President Trump, which increases the pensions of our nation's Medal of Honor recipients? This is something that you were behind. I just saw that you were doing this with President Trump. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, believe it or not, think about this. I've been here 5 years, and it's my first bill that was actually signed. It is, your viewers, your listeners got to understand, it's very difficult to get anything done up here. It's just a very slow, tedious process. With the Medal of Honor Act, I found out a guy named Leroy Sisco, a great Texan, lives down in Bernie. He reached out to me, he says, Troy, do you know Medal of Honor recipients? And there's only 61 alive today. they get a monthly pension of less than $1,500 a month, less than $1,500. We give more to illegal aliens than we give to our Medal of Honor recipients. Very hard to earn one of those. I mean, it's a Medal of Honor. It's our nation's highest honor. So I said, we got to do something to help them. Leroy Sisco said, Troy, we have had Medal of Honor recipients file for bankruptcy. I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to bump up their pension. It hasn't been increased for 23 years. 23 years. So I started the Medal of Honor Act. It started in the House. It took me some time to get it done, but finally we found some reasonable people around here and we had a vote. It was under suspension and it passed 424 to nothing. Now they're going to go from about $1,500 a month, a little less than 15, to about $6,500 a month, which is better than $1,500. And then once it got through the House, it was sent over. I had Ted Cruz, my companion, Senator Cruz, on the Senate. He did put it on the floor. It went under what we call UC, unanimous consent, and it passed over there. So we were in the Oval Office last night, with the president signing this bill, and we had some Medal of Honor recipients there. It was just wonderful. But finally, under a unified government, we actually did something good for our Medal of Honor recipients, and it was a big day, a very special day.
That is incredibly special. Well, congratulations, because that's just going to be huge for people. And it is just sickening to think about the amount of money that we waste on illegals in all capacities. And then we do not even provide the same kinds of things for our veterans. Do you have any kind of plans or anything that you're looking forward to the future after Congress? I know you said you want to spend more time with family, so that's going to be great. Are you excited to be back in Texas more?
Yeah, yes. We got 13 more months and we're not quitting midterm. Everybody says he's quitting. People don't read well, or they just try to create their own narrative and they spread lies and half truths. And I told my beautiful bride, I said, baby, as soon as I announce that I'm not seeking another term, I said, guess what it is going to be? The dishonest media will say, because he's in the Epstein files, just the ridiculous stuff you see out on social media. But I have to focus on the next 13 months. I'm the chairman of aviation, and we have an enormous amount of work to do with this administration's modernizing the air traffic control system. So I play a significant role in that, and that is going to be a major focus of mine for 13 months. And then, getting my twin brother in there. I think my twin brother is going to win this election. And so we have a lot of work to do. But yeah, spending time at home with my wife, Jill, and just, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not, 30 years old. I'm not the young guy. This is a game now maybe for guys like Brandon and others to lead the charge, those that are America First patriots, and they're out there. My brother's one of those. And I feel good about the future with President Trump over the next 3 years. But we don't have much of if we lose the House, the boss is going to have to do everything through executive order, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that we have a unified government for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like over this next year is going to be top priority for us to focus on? Well, we know we have the majority. We know we have, President, Senate, Congress. What are you kind of seeing for the next year? Because you're right, we do have a ways to go before the next midterm.
Well, I think the one big beautiful bill that we pass is probably going to be the most significant legislation we will pass. I mean, that's a big deal with the tax cuts, permanent, all that. I think that there's opportunities under a unified government to do more, pass another reconciliation. We need to do that because you just need a simple majority in the Senate. You forego the filibuster over there, and then another rescissions package. So we have opportunities to go in and gut the fish, gut the big bloated pig of Washington, D.C. And while we have that unified government, I think we ought to be leading the charge and helping this administration, bloat this big pig we have up here of Washington, D.C. So I think we'll probably see that. In some of the other things we've got in transportation and infrastructure, we have a big infrastructure, transportation, roads, bridges, asphalt. So we need to address some of those issues, but we cannot ever forget too about investigations. We do know when Donald Trump is an investigation about everything, right? Now we have a responsibility, in my opinion, to investigate the investigators, the January 6th sham committee under Benny Thompson, Liz Cheney, crying Adam, and everybody else, Nancy Pelosi. So I'm on that select committee to deal with January 6th, and we got to get to the bottom of it. And we got to let the American people hear the truth, because they have not heard truth. They just haven't done it. It was all half lies and half truths and lies. And the American people deserve to hear the truth. And the J6ers that have been victimized by this thing, they need their day in court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of Americans, they saw through it, but you're right. We haven't fully released all the information. We need to get to the bottom of it, because that's what the Democrats would do. They were talking about January 6th for multiple years, even after January 6th happened, really just making that something they were kind of even just running on, to just keep talking about January 6th. And I remember, I think, was it Nancy Pelosi who was like, I'm going to put Troy on this committee because maybe she thought you were going to be like, siding with them or something. And she was hoping that that'd be the case. But then she was surprised because you were like, no, you're a total defender of President Trump. You did not go that direction. Tell us a little bit about your experience on that committee.
Sure. January 6th, I was in Congress for 3 days, and I believe I'm the only member of Congress to talk to a rioter that day. I was at the back doors of the chamber talking to one of the young men on the other side. And I say he was a young man because he kind of had a little peach fuzz. You know how young men, they can't grow a good mustache. I predicted he was probably 20, 23 years old, but had a little conversation with him. We were full COVID, right? So I had a Texas mask on, and we had a conversation. But I tell you, what I've learned and discovered about January 6th is that it stunk to high heaven. It is almost as if they could have prevented it. The previous administration, Nancy Pelosi, and the leadership of the Capitol Police, there was so much evidence and so much intelligence out there that said it's going to get stupid up here on January 6th, and they didn't do anything about it. The National Guard should have been up here on January 4th, based upon the January 3rd special events, intel report. They knew it was going to get stupid, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to prepare the Capitol Police. And what you saw up here was a complete mess. I mean, it was a riot. It wasn't an insurrection, because Dinesh has been up here. We've done documentaries up here, and Dinesh has been up here. And I said, I take him into the rotunda and into the statutory hall where all these beautiful statues. The people didn't break anything. If it was an insurrection, they could have destroyed the building, the Capitol. They didn't touch anything. They didn't break it. So the idea that this was an insurrection is just not true. I've been to the D.C. jail, those people that were locked up for years. I mean, just to me, their rights were violated, and it just should have never happened. January 6th should have never, ever happened, but it's almost like some in power wanted it to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the sick part, is the Democrats, they were excited after it happened, and their involvement is, something that certainly needs to be exposed even further. But you've been a big defender of President Trump, a big supporter of Trump. Tell us about your kind of journey to MAGA, your relationship with Trump over your time in Congress, and what has been your impression of him so far?
Well, that's a great question. When I was a sheriff in Fort Bend County, I was a tough sheriff. I said, I'm not on the border, but I'm 4 hours from the border. But we saw a number of illegal aliens coming into Fort Bend County and committing crimes. And several of them were sophisticated, very, very well organized gangs out of Venezuela and others that were committing residential burglaries. And they were committing a lot of them. Very sophisticated. So I was all about, we got to secure the southern border. And then I decided to run for Congress, and I've been up here. And what I've done for President Trump is, I'm so proud of my efforts, and my twin brother as well, and other family members. We're from the state of Wisconsin, and we worked very, very hard. We worked very, very hard to help President Trump win the state of Wisconsin. Spent about 4 months up there and held rallies for the boss. And so President Trump and I spoke quite often. He always called me and said, how are we doing in Wisconsin? I said, sir, we're going to win Wisconsin. We're going to win it. I don't have anything to do with Pennsylvania, some of these others, but my focus was the state of Wisconsin. And if we can win Wisconsin, I feel we're going to be in great shape. Well, we did. I held a rally in my hometown of Juneau, of 2,000 people, and we filled it up. I told President Trump, I said, this is going to be the biggest rally you've held in Wisconsin. And it was until the last rally, which was at Fiserv in Milwaukee 3 days before the general election. But I had such a great time reaching voters in Wisconsin and working with the Trump team and the president. I'll never forget it. I could write a book about it, but it was great. It was great.
Yeah. What was your reaction to the big wins? I guess about a year ago now in 2024, when Trump had a blowout win and we got the Senate and the House. What were you thinking? Because as a congressman, that was probably really exciting.
I said, yes, I can remember. Now, somebody said, you're going to watch it in Mar-a-Lago? You're going to be in Wisconsin? No, I went home. I went home the day of the election. I flew back to Texas and I watched it. And then I tell you, Danielle, I was thinking, okay, are they going to try to steal this one? Are they going to rig this election? You were always concerned about Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and these votes that come in the 11th hour, or not even the 11th hour, even later than that, and try to rig and steal the election. But we had such a lead. I think that Trump had such a lead that they couldn't flip it. They couldn't cheat enough to flip it. And so it was just the greatest night. I told my kids, I said, America has been saved. America now has been saved. Because you look at Kamala Harris, I mean, and you look at that Dumbo up in Minnesota, that Tim Walz is crazy. Danielle, he's crazy. And Kamala, she ain't too bright either. So the American people made the right decision. And now, so it was a great moment. It was a great moment. And the American people are benefiting from President Donald Trump being in the White House with a unified government. I remind those too. I said, Mike Johnson, everybody else, Mike Johnson wouldn't be speaker. We wouldn't have the gavels and the majority if it weren't for Donald Trump. And sometimes the Senate needs to think about that as well, is that Donald Trump helped the Republican Party because he's the leader of our party. Let's never forget that. Let's follow our leader.
Yes, we should all be moving in unison, following President Trump, getting things done, because the more we get done, the more we do now, the more likely we are to also win again in the midterms and the next cycle, because people will say, oh, wow, the Republicans did all this. I like this. I like living in this America much more. Biden America was awful. And Trump is doing so much to help people. But it has been frustrating at times when the Senate or whoever is not moving in unison, because this is our time. The Democrats are really good at sticking together. What's been your observation in maybe even seeing how the Democrats do things? How do they all decide they're going to vote together? How do they make this happen?
Yeah. The Democrats have always seemed to be, they stick together. You got to, people were talking about Nancy Pelosi, and, she had when she was the speaker, she kept people, I don't want to say in line, but they all seem to be, moving in the same direction. We always seem to have a little bit more of a difficult time in the House under the Republicans. We just do. You get one or two out there, they'll just never vote. They'll never vote for Trump for some reason. They want to do their own thing. So it's a little bit more difficult up here, especially with the thin majority that we have. But I'm thinking to myself, understand, if it weren't for Donald Trump, we wouldn't be in the majority. And if you continue to go against the President Trump and his America First policies, we will lose the majority. And that's what the Democrats are counting on right now. I don't know. I believe, the Senate, there's nothing in the Constitution that talks about filibuster. I mean, there's a lot of rules over in the Senate. I don't know why in the hell they have all the rules, but this filibuster, my humble opinion, the Democrats, they will go for your throat. They will stop at nothing to get the power back. They'll do it. And if we're not careful, everybody says we can't nuke the filibuster. We should nuke the filibuster on certain things. You don't have to do all of it, but we should say, well, let's nuke the filibuster on CRs or certain things. The Democrats, in my humble opinion, if they ever get back in charge, they're going to find a way to nuke the filibuster. And then we're going to probably say, why in the hell didn't we do it? Because we thought the Democrats wouldn't do it, or we want to play nice. The Democrats don't play nice. They just don't. They will go for your throat.
Yeah. And whoever, in a way, gets rid of it first, they get the advantage because they got, those years, that time to do a lot of things. And when it eventually, hopefully doesn't, but, at some point, power will go back to the Democrats. They will probably do that. And I mean, even now, the kind of old guard Democrats, the Chuck Schumers, they're getting kind of phased out. The Democrats are becoming much more radical than
Yes,
even
they
he is. And so they're not going to want to, say, oh, this is kind of our decorum. This is the way we do things. We both agree that we're going to kind of keep this in place. I mean, the radical Democrats, the way that they're going is pretty hardcore. And
Yeah.
we're seeing the
If
new
you,
Democrats coming in.
that's absolutely right. And people says, well, why can't it be with the Tip O'Neill days 30 years ago? You go cut some deals in the back rooms, cigar smoking back rooms, you cut some deals. We don't have that up here today. The civility doesn't really exist. And I don't know how we get back to that. I mean, it seems like the elections, we're electing younger people. I'm okay with that, but they are more radical. I mean, here's a good example, Jasmine Crockett. I mean, if that isn't a fool, if you look up in Tennessee, now I got to believe the people in Tennessee are going to elect the Republican, but you bring her up here. I mean, she's in bed with AOC. I mean, so we're bringing in more and more radicals, and it's going to be hard to ever see where you're going to see some, I don't want to say peace, but just bring back civility back into the Congress. They're getting more radicalized. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to get more maybe intense before it gets better, because if they're going to fight like that, it's like, okay, well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fight fire with fire. And then, maybe eventually things will get the whole country to the right, to a better place. But what was your reaction to seeing Jasmine Crockett apparently claiming she's evaluating running for Senate in Texas, our state?
I want to laugh and just say, go ahead and do it, because then, I won't have to deal with it, but we won't have to deal with it because she has no chance. She has no chance. And we got a pretty contested race. I've had conversations with just about everybody about the Senate race. I'm a Ken Paxton fan. I really, really am. Somebody brought up, they said, Ken Paxton, he got divorced. I said, let me tell you something. If a nasty divorce would disqualify somebody to be in Congress, we couldn't establish a quorum up here. Are you kidding me? Ken Paxton is the right guy. John Cornyn, 24 years. Thank you, sir, for your service. But now we need some new leadership. And Ken Paxton is that guy. And Ken Paxton's going to win the race. And I'm excited about it because we need fighters up here. We need fighters up here that put Donald Trump, America, the American people first. And that's what we see with Ken Paxton.
Yeah. In a way, if Jasmine Crockett drops out to run for Senate, that's good, because then she won't be in the House anymore. So I'm kind of like, good luck. But I guess
I don't think people, Danielle, I don't really think people take her seriously. The only person that really takes her seriously is herself. She loves to hear her own voice. That's what she does. She loves to hear her own voice.
I guess,
but she's just, you don't take her serious. We got some on her own side that people aren't even taking serious anymore either. So it's just, she doesn't lack self-confidence. That's for certain.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think she wants to be, I don't know, the next level of with the Democrats or something. But Troy, so last question. What is your biggest kind of piece of advice for future Congress as you're kind of looking ahead? What's your one big piece of advice? Because you are, you're an expert. You've been in.
I would say in the 6 years, and our number one philosophy up here is that family, Danielle, I can't say this strong enough. Family must be first. You have to put your family first, because this is hard on families. A lot of things that will be said about you. If you have smaller children, you're traveling a lot, you're up here a lot. Unless you're independently wealthy, you may not be able to move your family up here. I don't know. It's a different circumstance for everybody. But you must keep your family first. Obviously, your faith, but your family. And then the job. And then your position as a member of Congress. You can be an effective member of Congress, but still put your family first. And that's what I would recommend. If you keep your family first, I think you'll be a very effective congressman. Those that struggle at home and those that spend more time up here doing things that they shouldn't be doing, I am telling you, you can see it. I can see it in members that are struggling at home. And I would just say, if you want to come on up here, and if you're relatively young, like what you two do with Brandon and everything, and that beautiful baby you have, is you put your family first. And so I would probably say that would be my advice. I know some members or some people that are running in Texas that have small children, very small children. And I'm like, do you really truly understand the sacrifice you're making? Because you're not tucking your children in. You're just not doing it every night. And this can be so having the support of your family and keeping your family the number one priority while you're serving, I think that is the advice I can give you, the most important advice I can give.
Yeah, well, that's such great advice because I agree. Family is absolutely number one. And anytime you get a sense that, yeah, that's going to take a backseat or whatever, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't going to work because that is number one. So you can't give that up. It's like your faith. You can't just, put it at the door and go in and forget it. No, absolutely not. And of course, we all do this for our family, for our children, for the future of this country, because it's just going off a cliff otherwise. But Troy, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all you're doing. And I'm very excited for all you guys are going to keep doing the rest of this year, next year. You guys have a lot to get done. So I'm excited to see it all unfold.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me. Say hello to Dinesh for me. Give Debbie a big hug for me. I just love her too. I think she's wonderful. And again, I cannot say enough how proud I am of Brandon and what he has done up here. I mean, everybody loves him. People in my district, they see him all the time on TV and everything. They're saying, who is that Brandon Gill guy? He's very, very good. And I said, Brandon, I saw him on the flight. I said, Brandon, put some glasses on, put your cape on you because you're Superman. You're super.
You'll have to just wear it for the look. Well, you're the sweetest, Troy. We're such big fans. You guys are going to have such a great year. And thank you again.
God bless you.
Congratulations on the bill.
God bless you and your family.
MyPillow is still going on with their big 3-in-1 sale. They got a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, just $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings. Regular price $119.98 and now only $29.88. But once they're gone for good, so act now. My towels are finally back in stock. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular price $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first and only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, queen size $17.98, kings only $19.98. Also for a limited time, when you order over $100, you get free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. Call 800-876-0227. That's 800-876-0227. Or go to mypillow.com. Use promo code Dinesh for the best offers ever. Quantities are low, so order now. It's mypillow.com, and the promo code is DINESH, Dinesh.
One thing we as a nation are truly thankful for this year is the fact that 2025 is the first time in 50 years that our nation has experienced net negative migration. That means a greater portion of the people listening to this podcast have either never experienced or don't even remember the last time we had net negative migration. The administration is still going full steam ahead on deportations, despite the leftist judicial tyrants subverting the will of American voters. Moreover, the administration is braving massive, well-funded protests and seditious counterattacks. President Trump's resolve, however, has never wavered. That's how you know the effort is worthwhile. The same people who stood by for years, especially during the Otto Penn administration, while 11 million military-aged men from countries all over the world spilled across our border and began infiltrating our communities. That a scandal of such breadth and depth could happen in the first place is totally shocking. And the attempts to whitewash the reality by Democrats speaks to their hatred of our nation and her people. DHS reports 2 million illegals have been removed or repatriated, with the bulk of those numbers, 1.6 million, coming from those who voluntarily self-deported. Yay. That's an important thing to keep in mind because the deportation numbers alone don't tell the full story. 5 extra people self-deport for every 4 people taken out of the country by ICE. By sensationalizing these deportation raids on the news, the Democrat media is doing really good work getting the word out that illegal immigrants can no longer run and hide. Law and order is once again a real thing in the U.S. This places a strong incentive on picking up and going back home. There's been some consternation on the right about the numbers of H-1B visas, legal immigration, but those who complain haven't realized that Trump has helped to level the playing field by adding a six-figure fee for employees wishing to hire these people on those visas. Thank goodness. In addition, the administration has cut student visas by 17% this year alone. Maybe those who complain do so because they don't think that these are real numbers. But it's important to ask ourselves this question. Does anyone seriously think this administration is going to let up? They are just getting started. Case in point, just last month, President Trump revoked the temporary protective status for Somalis in Minnesota after it was discovered the refugees were engaged in large-scale funding of terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab using taxpayer dollars. This is completely unacceptable. Those of us who remember the Obama administration recall 8 straight years of a presidency that blamed every bad economic report in his predecessor, George W. Bush, sometimes going so far as to take credit for a good report one month and then comically blame the Bush administration the next month for a bad report. Obama left lasting turmoil in this country. Trump was elected because we, the people, know that he doesn't roll like Obama. He takes responsibility from the outset, and he is doing everything he can in his power to make things better, starting from day one in the Oval Office, working with Congress in the process to codify these executive orders, provided we can continue to have a majority, get rid of any rhinos. He proves a good president is responsive to the needs of the people. The administration is moving at the speed of Trump to set things right. With a refreshing degree of integrity, President Trump is acting on a moral imperative that often seems to be lacking in American politics. That's why he's removed the tariffs on beef, coffee, tropical fruit. He heard voters' concerns. He responded. Nothing short of an upcoming election can get the Biden administration's attention on issues such as fear of crime at the border, the shortage of baby formula, or high gas prices. The Trump administration directly tackles voters' concerns in real time. Recall that the Biden administration had the highest national average cost for a gallon of gas of any U.S. president, with the nationwide average approaching almost $3.50. It's amazing to think that such relief for Americans is what the Democrats are dead set against. If you want an idea as to how well this country would be running without Democrats, ruining this whole thing, then all you have to do is examine the one area of Trump's administration where they can't interfere, and that is foreign policy. Trump has been negotiating peace deals. He has been keeping us out of wars across the globe. He has had an unprecedented effect on the global stage, which is why he should absolutely get the Nobel Peace Prize. He has been bringing harmony and returning an American golden age where we are once again respected. He has brokered peace between India and Pakistan, Cambodia and Thailand, Azerbaijan and Armenia, as well as Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Most surprisingly, he brokered a peace deal between Israel and Hamas. And that was even after bombing the nuke facilities in Iran, which was absolutely the right decision because we cannot have Iran with a nuclear weapon. So, while American theaters screened a movie about Superman trying to stop war around the world, Trump was actually stopping wars around the world. He's put both Venezuela and Nigeria on blast, the former for their roles in trafficking deadly drugs, and the latter for mass murdering of our fellow Christians. And in supporting Nigerian Christians, he's earned the respect of Nicki Minaj, creating the first ever mainstream rap GOP alliance in the history of American pop culture. Trump understands the concept of the carrot and the stick. That is what makes him such an effective negotiator and leader in working with other nations. By keeping all options on the table, everyone knows where he stands and what he's capable of doing, and that there is something behind his threats. In the end, he's able to resolve problems that have persisted for years, yes, by, sometimes using the stick, but also sometimes using the carrot. That's why we're so confident he can broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Both countries were already experiencing crisis-level population declines that the war has only elevated to near extinction levels. According to the Kiev Independent, Fully 10 million people have left Ukraine since the war started, but before that, birth rates were below replacement levels with only 1 child per woman. Meanwhile, low birth rates and an aging population in Russia have that nation looking at a loss of 7 million over the next 20 years. This war is no longer in anyone's best interest. We have to pray that President Trump will be successful in bringing peace to the region. Maybe by Christmas, maybe next year. The shutdown showed how cutthroat the Democrats can be, sacrificing their poor constituents just to keep the funds flowing to illegal immigrants. Illegals who the Dems swear don't vote, by the way, even though many of their areas don't even have voter ID. That's how badly the Democrats want to thwart Trump. They're willing to do serious harm to our own people if they don't get their way. They don't see us as voters, but as hostages. That's why the vote to release the Epstein files was so satisfying to watch. Over and over, the Democrats tried to attack Trump by threatening to disclose information from the files, and every time they outed themselves as Epstein cronies. You took orders from the criminal you were trying to link to Trump, Stacey Plaskett? This is what happens when you go against the man who moves at the speed of Trump. Trump has been getting so much done in this year. We are only just getting started. We will see all more that will be done with him in office, bringing back the American Golden Age. Well, that wraps up today's show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Truth Social, Rumble. I am at Danielle D'Souza Gill, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.